I want to officially welcome you to our Global Agritourism Network webinar, A World of Agritourism, Definitions and Values Identified by the Global Agritourism Network. And today we are joined by 5 leaders and members of the Global Agritourism Network Committee on Definitions and Standards for Agritourism. We'll introduce them all a little bit later. My name is Lisa Chase. I'm with University of Vermont Extension and the Vermont Tourism Research Center, and I'm also a past president of the Global Agritourism Network. And I have the honor of organizing the webinars for the Global Agritourism Network, and I want to tell you a little bit about that network before we launch into our webinar topic. Could I have the next slide, please? The official launch of the Global Agritourism Network was a Zoom meeting, not unlike this one, in April of 2023, so a little over 2 years ago. And in just over 2 years, we already have over 1,000 members from, I think it's 115 countries last time I checked. It is free to join this network. And so if you're not a member, we invite you to scan the QR code or go to the Global Agritourism Network website and register to be a part of this network. We welcome everyone working in agritourism, whether you're a farmer, a researcher, a tourism professional, a policymaker, ag service provider, what have you. We feel that the diversity of professions represented in GAN is one of the best things about our network. And I'm now going to launch a poll that many of you have seen before if you've joined us for webinars in the past. I'm now ending the poll and I'm sharing the results. So you can see here that not surprisingly for this particular topic, we are 45% researchers and 35% educators. But I'm happy to say we still got 20% farmer, rancher, producer. For some of our topics, we'll end up with a lot of farmers, things that are a little more practical and applied. And it's not surprising that today's topic is a little more academic, but still hopefully meaningful to everyone. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we can go on to the next slide and really start to dive into the heart of what we're talking about today. We've got an outline that describes the flow for today on the next slide. I'm starting us off with the welcome and introductions, and then we're going to very quickly move into defining agritourism globally. And our first speaker is Dr. Carla Barbieri, who is a professor at North Carolina State University. And many of you know her already. She is an internationally recognized scholar of agritourism. And in her free time, she and her family manage an orchard. And she is also the current president of the Global Agritourism Network. And she has been running the GAN Definitions Committee since that committee was first founded in April of 2023. I'm going to turn it over to Carla now, and we'll move to the next slide.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thanks for everybody for being here. Well, we all that work in agritourism, we know that there is not a standard definition. The definition varies from country to country, and even inside our own countries, there are some variations. It's not a matter of wording only. That not having a unison definition hinders practical effort like outreach, marketing, collaboration across stakeholders, and of course, advocacy policy, and in a way, it slows down the development of agritourism globally. To solve this issue, when the Global Agritourism Network was founded, as Liz explained, we created an ad hoc subcommittee to create a high-level definition of agritourism that could serve as a guideline for all parts of the world. Next, Erica, please. So, who we are? Well, in our committee, we are like over 140 members, but in reality, we are like between 22, 25 very committed members that we meet once a month for 1 hour, sometimes for 2 hours. And we come from a collective of 15 countries. We are farmers, researchers, educators, policymakers from public sector, private agencies, and also non-for-profits. And collectively, we have strong experience in agriculture, tourism, and rural development. Next, please. How we operate. So as I was saying, we meet monthly, but what we try is really to foster a very open dialogue where there's no prevalent voices. And we do not move forward until we get consensus. Once that we get a major advancement in our discussion, we open for social legitimacy to the broader community of agritourism through different ways. For example, we had a signature event in the World Congress of Agritourism some years ago. We have also launched surveys globally to receive feedback and to see whether we are in the right direction. Next, please. Thank you. So our outcome has been, that's why we are here, very proud that we have created an agritourism definitional framework that has been social legitimized. The agritourism definitional framework has 3 legs. It has a set of values that we share across the world regarding agritourism. Those values serve to create a definition, but we also have a variability statement to explain how the practice can vary across countries. Erica is going to explain more in detail these 3 legs later. Now, why social legitimize? Because after coming up with this major definitional framework, we conducted a survey among the global agritourism audience. We got 244 respondents from 54 different countries. And our results showed that 85% felt that the definition fits well or extremely well in their country. And 91% were very happy with the accuracy of the variability estimate. Thanks, Eric. Now I'll pass to Dr. Erica Quendler for explaining the definitional framework. Erica is a senior researcher at the Federal Institute of Agricultural Economics, Rural and Mountain Research in Vienna, Austria. She holds a doctorate, a PhD in agricultural economics. And of course, the central focus of her research is agritourism. And over the years, she has made significant contributions, not only to the scientific audience, but also she has been deeply engaged into the agritourism, Global Agritourism Network and our committee. Erica, the audience is yours.
Thank you very much, Carla. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to continue. We started this process with the identification of a set of core agritourism values. These values form the basis for everyone that followed, and at the heart lies a key idea. Agritourism happens where agriculture and tourism intersect in a meaningful way. Both elements must be present. It's not simply rural tourism or on-farm sales, but where a genuine agricultural activity meets the visitor experience. We agreed that agritourism is first and foremost an agricultural diversification activity. It creates new income streams for farms while keeping agricultural production central. Everything such as accommodation, tasting, workshops, or educational skills builds directly on agriculture. Importantly, agritourism also showcases the region's tangible resources like landscape and products, and intangible ones such as traditions and community values. Above all, authenticity is essential. Experience must be genuinely connect visitors to agriculture and rural life. To capture the diversity of global realities, we developed a variability statement. This acknowledges that agritourism values and activities vary across geographic, sociocultural, and policy contexts, reflecting local realities. In detail, we are talking about legal or customer boundaries. This refers to the land, the operator or agritourism activities, land tenure system, whether it is a case of rented, owned or community managed land, farm site, type and location, dictating what form of agritourism are possible, frequency of offerings from seasonal to year around, and standards or regulations. The variability statement ensures that agritourism is always rooted in its specific national context. On that background, we finalized the high-level definition of agritourism in November 24. This definition captures the essence of agritourism in a way that it is globally relevant and locally applicable, as the survey data already confirmed. It reaffirms that agricultural production remains central, while authenticity and local identity resources define the visitor experience. To assess how well this definition fits local realities, we collected 17 country cases from 5 continents. Our sample included Canada, the United States, Peru, Poland, Austria, Italy, Albania, Ukraine, Georgia, Nepal, India, Vietnam, Taiwan, the Philippines, and finally Australia. Country experts contributed their data using a template. We then conducted a thematic analysis based on the GAN definition, key elements, to see how local definition and practices lined up with the global one. What the country cases reveal is a diversity in agritourism practices shaped by each nation's policies, landscapes, and traditions. Despite this diversity, all cases align with the GAN definition. The GAN definition is a kind of framework uniting this variety experience under a clear and coherent global vision. With this in mind, it's clear that local realities inform global perspectives, vice versa. On that, I am very pleased to pass on the word to Lisa Chase, who will moderate the next part. We have 3 great panelists who share their insights about their realities in their country.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you, Carla, for giving that overview. We are now fortunate to be joined by Kelly Cormier from Canada, Tim Parsons from Australia, and Aditya Vardhan Pathak from India. They will share their perspectives from their local and regional geographic area. I'm going to start out by asking all 3 of them to introduce themselves. Kelly, will you start us out?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Good to see you all. So I'm Kelly Cormier. I am from Canada. I am in Alberta. I'm a prairie girl. I'm a rancher's daughter. So dad was a beef rancher. So I've been involved on farm operations, but I am currently the founder and owner of ClearThink Group for over 30 years, been working with business owners and primarily been working in agritourism for 15 years, working with farm families, tourism organizations, and governments. So when I've been on this committee since it started, and it's been really fantastic. So that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Tim, we'll turn it over to you on the other side of the world.
Yes, hello everybody. My name's Tim Parsons from Tasmania, little island down the bottom of Australia. And my family, I'm a multi-generational farmer in Tasmania, 6 generations over 200 years. And my parents built a little log cabin on the farm in 1984 with the idea of hosting visitors to come and stay on the farm. So we've started doing farm stays 41 years ago. In about 1990, we started hosting people to the farm for a farm tour since 1990. And along that lengthy journey, I've become involved in tourism at our local, regional, state, and national levels in and out of all the tourism platforms. But agritourism's been very misunderstood and underrepresented until now. And so I'm really proud to be part of the global network and be tying together agritourism on behalf of farmers and operators all around the world.
Thank you, Tim. Aditya Vardhan, tell us about yourself and where you are in India.
Namaskar, everyone. I am Captain Aditya Vardhan Pathak from a place known as Shahpur near Mumbai in India. And I am a veteran who traded his bullets for bullocks and joined the family farm full-time since 2011. We are primarily into horticultural production. In 2022, we started off with agritourism, where I am now a host in my own agritourism center and farm stays. So thank you for having me on this panel and hoping to host quite a few of you if you decide to visit India, Mumbai, Shahpur. Thank you.
Thank you. I've now got a series of questions that I'll share with our panelists, and we also invite the audience to type into Q&A at any time with additional questions that you want to ask our three panelists or Carla and Erica. So feel free to type into Q&A at any time. Our first question, I'm going to give to Aditya Vardhan first. To what extent do you feel that the Global Agritourism Network definition represents agritourism in your region?
Well, Lisa, I feel that the definition represents my country to a very large extent in terms of all the values it embodies. But I also like that there is a variability. We have factored in the variability. So, for example, in our country, there is a concept known as legal farmer in certain states, which is not there maybe in other countries. Or we've got the concept of starting agritourism on rented land, where you don't have to own the farm yourself. Having said that, I would like to bring the focus to one important aspect where we have said one of the values is agritourism being an agricultural diversification activity. This assumes importance in my country because the focus primarily is in increasing the incomes of the farmer. And that is because we've got more than 40% of our labor who is into farm activities. And 86% of those farmers are smaller marginal, which means they have got 5 acres or less, making agricultural productivity a challenge. So what happens is there is no mechanization. So only from agriculture, you cannot get the income. Hence, the focus is on a diversification activity which can yield certain amount of income. for which my government is trying to promote. So to answer your question in short, to a very large extent, and thanks to the variability, it fits to the shoe. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll head over to Canada now. Kelly, what are your thoughts on how well the GAN definition represents agritourism in your region?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So I'm going to speak primarily about Alberta, where I am, and the prairies. So Canada is a huge country, as you know, but I'm on the prairies. And what I find with this definition, it provides focus and guidance. The definition centers on the farmers, the farms, and potential diversification. It sets clear boundaries and gives direction for developing agritourism in a region. I also find that this definition works across scales. Here in Alberta especially, we have large commercial farms with vast amount of acreage, and we also have smaller family operations. So with this definition, it does allow for that diversity and variability that these types of farms can actually work together, can collaborate to show the full spectrum of agriculture in Canada. So I find that this definition does work very well, and it provides guidelines for this sector, which is really, really important. It's about farmers, helping farmers develop sustainable businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Tim, tell us, in Tassie and Australia and your region in general, what are your thoughts?
Okay, thanks, Lisa. I'm going to go the opposite to Kaylee and go on behalf of our whole country of Australia. Australia also is a very big country, and we've got lots and lots of different regions. But in essence, the definition overlaps, yes, and from what's already been said before about understanding and using agritourism as a way of diversification. The global definition includes the phrase utilising or showcasing the tangible and intangible resources, whereas in Australia, we're probably not quite there yet. It's about the farmer and the region and promoting the product. I'll just read our national definition for Australia, which says that agritourism is a type of experiential travel which connects people to product or produce delivered on farming land through a direct on-farm experience. So that gets back to the core of taking place on a real working farm and honouring a primary production unit that the farm was doing before, and then they've diversified to allow tourists onto the farm. We've got 3 levels. We've got our national level, which says that, and then we break down into 7 states that have got their own interpretations for their own use. And then below that is little regional clusters or groups that are really just focused on their own region and what they do to get more tourists to come and visit. So overall, the definition does match what we've got here in Australia with the global definition.
Thank you. We'll move on to another question, which is how does the GAN definition align with the attitudes to farming and tourism in your country or region? And Kelly, we'll start with you.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So the definition does align with the cultural attitudes to farming and tourism. Alberta, really our agricultural sector is foundational to the province's economy. It contributes $10.3 billion in GDP in 2023, and it employs 83,000 Albertans. Primarily in the province where we have beef, grains, and oilseeds. We do a lot of exporting, but also we do have great products that we have here in the country. So I would have to say agriculture is part of our identity and our economy in Alberta. It's critical to the economic base and our cultural heritage. With relating to tourism, the visitors are seeking connections with farmers, farm families. They want to know where their food is coming from. They want to hear those farming stories. So on the tourism side, on the visitor side, agritourism definition does fit. It allows for tours, tastings, hands-on interactions. It also helps with community pride and regional development. So we can showcase the farms, showcase our local food, landscape, and traditions, and it reinforces the rural identity and supports community economic development and promotes diversifications of farm businesses.
Thank you. Aditya Vardhan, tell us about how it does or does not align with attitudes to farming and tourism in your country and region.
Well, Lisa, it's a very interesting question. And I'm glad you asked it because in Bharat, India, there has been a cultural renaissance of sort where people are looking to reconnect with their roots. So, take the example of farming. We've got people who want to know how and where their food comes from. And because nowadays there is a danger of bad food out there where there is chemicals and harmful things, they want to see the source. And it's also sort of a family bonding exercise where the parents or the grandparents want to educate the next generation, that to tell them, for example, that the milk comes from cows or buffaloes and not from the milkman or the supermarket. As far as the tourism is concerned, people nowadays are looking for experiences. They are willing to pay for experiences. So immersive tourism is the flavor of the season. And if India is the IT capital of the world, we supply all the software services. So the job itself is so mind numbing, the coding thing, that we have got software engineers who are going to the fields to work with their hands because that is fulfilling. Plus, people are looking for places that they take them away from the hustle and bustle of their cities, the work stress, or the digital detox. They want to come from real life to real life, and they're looking for farm fresh food. What happens is that they are looking to connect with nature, to connect with agriculture. So I feel that the values that we have espoused, they fit perfectly with the attitudes that we are seeing now towards farming and tourism in India. So it's the sweet spot. It's the right time, right place thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, what are your thoughts from Australia?
Okay. Yeah, look, the attitudes to farming and tourism is really interesting, and I note that Joanne just asked a question in the chat box about this. Australia has got an excellent tourism platform and pathway. Our marketing and our product and our icons are really well known, and I'm sure most of you have seen some form of tourist advertising about Australia. And also, like Canada, we've got excellent farming. It's a massive industry in agriculture. But to bring the two together, the linear landscape of tourism is really well laid out with regions and advertising and marketing for people to come and enjoy those tourist products. Whereas the farming pathway, it's probably a very small portion of the farmers, like down in the very tiny percentages that wish to diversify into tourism. And a lot of farmers that are starting out in agritourism are unfamiliar with the tourism pathways of how to get involved in your local region, how to develop your product and build it up to be a worthy product that's going to be successful. So farmers are approaching agritourism with the intention of once again diversifying and taking that low priced commodity that they're producing and enhancing it to offer to the consumer. And one of the analogies is that we've got a phrase here called paddock to plate. And the plate is really easy to promote. The plate is really shiny. The end product's packaged up in colourful paper and it's got a price on it. And we're really good at celebrating that food or a meal in a restaurant or a product as it walks out the shop front door. But the farmers that produce these things to date have been underrepresented in the actual paddock end of tourism. And what happens in the field, what happens in our life, what we have to do, and the variables of climate we put up with to produce these products. So the differences is wide, and agritourism is and this network is drawing those back together.
Great points. Great points. Our next question, and Aditya Vardhan, we'll start with you for the answer to that. What single clear message would you share with policymakers, farmers, and tourism operators about why a global definition matters?
Well, before you missed, Tim should have started this. I'm just joking. Before we go on to the global definition why it matters, I'll tell you from a country perspective. In India, we have got no centralized definitions. Every state has its own. So it creates a lot of confusion when you're going from one state to another. There are variations. Now, if we were to, it's like four horses going in four directions. So if we were to extrapolate this on a global level, if we truly want to enhance the quality of the experiences and if we want to evolve or progress, we need to have a global definition. Because the simple truth is what cannot be measured cannot be improved. And to measure, you require certain direction, certain paradigms or certain parameters. And this is where the global agritourism definition comes into play. It orients us in one direction. So that's why I feel it is extremely important, because what cannot be measured cannot be improved.
Thank you. Kelly, your thoughts on a single clear message?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I really love this question, and we could probably talk for hours on this one. There are so many benefits, but I just wanted to first of all say a global definition ensures policymakers, farmers, and tourism operators speak the same language, providing clarity, support, and growth for the sector. Now, just to give you an example of this, one of the things I've noticed working in agriculture and then tourism is there's a lack of common language. Like an example here is when the tourism folks are talking about export ready or market ready, that means something totally different to a destination marketing organization than it does to a grower or a producer, right? If you're saying export ready, well, that means to the farmer, well, I'm going to be exporting my grain. Whereas to a tourism person, that's something that's totally different. So there's a gap in the understanding of common language. It means different things to the different audiences. So the other thing that I find is we have a lack of statistics. The farmers are really, they're taking all the risk here. They're putting in 24/7 work to get their agricultural operations working. And when you talk to them about agritourism, they're really questioning about, well, tell me, how does it work? There seems to be a lack of statistics about that. And hopefully we'll come up with some statistical frameworks to help reduce the risk around agritourism. So I have to say that momentum is happening in Canada. We have been speaking with Agritourism Ontario, and they have recently had a bill that was accepted in Ontario to reduce on-farm risk for having visitors come to the farm. So we're looking to that as being really important, and that's something that Alberta is looking at. And hopefully starting with some policy alignment. Here we have to work with 3 levels of government: provincial, municipal, and federal, and it's very time-consuming and hard to navigate. So I think with the single clear message, we can reduce the risk and get farmers understanding the opportunities around agritourism. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Tim answer the question about a single clear message, and then I know the chat and the Q&A have been lighting up. So then Carla and Erica will pull questions from that chat and Q&A to share with our panelists. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, look, there's a comment came up in the chat regarding regulatory framework. And I guess here in Australia, we haven't had a definition for so long. And agritourism is really has been and remains in the too hard basket. So without a definition, we've been all at sea because people interpret agritourism as being a golf course or an inner city providor or cafe or restaurant, an artisan that is doing hobby work that is not necessarily a farmer. So with the definition, it brings it all together and defines that act of primary producers, farmers, and diversity. Australia is really policy heavy, hugely policy heavy, and so we are doing an excellent job. And I say this tongue in cheek, but we're doing a massive job of writing policies, with the outcome being just deferring of making a decision. Those policies, a lot of work's been put into them, but we're really hungry to get it out on the ground and get that recognition and get customers coming in our doors. As Kaylee said, the quality of product delivery, quality assurance, and the regulatory barriers that are preventing so much from happening are consuming a lot of time and energy. And we just want the decision makers to understand who we are, what we're doing, and what we want, so we can sit on a tourism platform at the same level as wine or spirits or our coastal and aquatic attractions and our major city icons that bode so well within the tourism industry.
Thank you. Carla, Erica, I know there's been a lot happening in chat and Q&A. Carla, you want to start us off?
Yes, we have 3 questions. Thanks for posting those. The first question I will try to answer. The second one is for the panelists, and the third one, it's an open question. So the first question is from Juan Carlos Muñoz from Spain. Gracias, Juan Carlos. He wrote that he found a gap in the definition regarding the balance between agriculture and tourism. In Spain, my country, we do not have a national regulation on agritourism, but several regional regulations. All of them recognize agritourism only when the income from the tourism side is fewer than those from the farming activity. Indeed, what you are referring to, Juan Carlos, it's something that we heavily discuss in our committee. I think that at least 2 or 3 sessions, because we have to deal with different levels of regulation. And what you are placing, but not all countries have regulation and not all regions have guidelines. And what you are talking about, it's one of the risks that we are seeing. What is the boundaries between agritourism and what we call agritainment? So when the recreational part takes over actually the agriculture. So because there were so much variability across the world, rather than opted for one or the another options, what we tried was to reconcile that variability, and that is why in our variability statement, we recognize that our definition of agritourism also varies given legal and customary delimitations. And what you are mentioning, it's a very good example of differences in legal frameworks across localities, regions, and countries. With that, I hope that I answered your question. The second question is for the panelists, and it comes from Beth Sastre. Have any of you faced situations where agribusiness wants to expand to sensitive natural areas, like mountains, overload districts, and what the solution from the government has been? So I'm opening that question to any of the panelists that can answer to Beth.
Tim, you want to go ahead?
Yes, Beth, we did discuss this in at length in the definition about mountains and wilderness areas and over tourism. And once again, when we come back to the definition of a primary producer that's diversifying their farm business, that puts almost a discount on wilderness and parks areas that are a different component of tourism that fall more into recreation and may be managed by parks and governmental authorities. So our agritourism, not that it's confined, and some operators may enter into wilderness that borders their area with necessary permits and things, but it's unlikely there'll ever be an imposition on wilderness areas or over tourism in high populated areas that will occur as a result of agritourism on farm and in regions.
Thank you. Thoughts on that question? Or Carla and Erica, would you care to throw out another question?
If there's, I think that was a very, Tim, thank you, very good answer. We do have another question from the panelists. I do not want to exclude. Comes from, sorry, I lost my, from Rajan Sharma. Hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And he's asking, how is agritourism different from rural tourism? I'm not sure, Erica, if you want to answer that. I can do so, or anybody in the panel too.
May I take that question? When you talk about rural tourism, it may or may not include the farm. It can include experiences in a village. It can include activities in a village. For example, in India, there are traditional workmen who are village based. So if you have children from schools visiting that to see how traditionally workmen worked in the villages, that would constitute rural tourism, but not agritourism. When you talk about agritourism, it specifically relates to the values that we have spoken about. For example, it involves agricultural production. It is the intersection of agriculture and tourism. So that may or may not be present in rural tourism. Rural tourism is a much larger or maybe even a disparate part of this process. So that's my take on the difference between rural and agritourism.
That's a great point. And I'll also add that agritourism can happen in urban spaces. There's agriculture in increasing amounts in urban spaces in the US and around the globe. So I think agritourism and rural tourism are certainly overlapping circles, but they do have their own separate areas as well. I've got another question for panelists, unless Carla or Erica want to weigh in. Okay. This is more of a personal question. I'm curious to hear from the three panelists, by participating in this process, what experiences or insights did you get from your collaboration with Global Agritourism Network peers, generally and particularly related to agritourism, as a result of this 2.5-year process of working together to come up with the definition. Tim, would you like to kick us off?
But I guess what we've picked up along the way in creating the definition is I've got a very hard and rigid understanding of my business over the last 40 years. And Australia is sort of set in its ways with agricultural production. But what we've drawn out from this process is understanding the absolute diversity around the globe of different countries and the importance of sustaining local villages, and then also providing for consumers' needs, as you say, with artisan products that are closer to the cities. So the understanding of our what we call the overarching or the global definition is a worldview that encompasses all of the variables that are so markedly different for individuals all around the world.
Thank you. Aditya Vardhan, tell us about your experience and insights from participating in this process with GAN peers.
The biggest eye-opener for me was that how many different views and opinions were there when we initially started out. We labored over every word. We still do. I was really enriched by that process. Like, for example, let's say we don't associate hunting with agritourism, right? But I was told that there is this Khoisan, a tribe in South Africa, who are traditional hunter-gatherers who are permitted by the local South African farmers to hunt on their farms because the local land systems do not support that much of wildlife. So, this is what happens when you have got a South African farm, which is dedicated to the uniqueness of the Khoisan perspective, which is unique because it is the intersection of tourism, conservation, and food security. Well, in short, sustainable traditional agro ecosystem. So I never thought of it this way because it doesn't fit in any traditional mold. And it brings me to a quote by Henry Ford, which I really loved. And I want to quote him to you, is that if there is any secret of success, it is in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. So the 2.5 years of churning have really given me a wider perspective. So that's what has been.
Thank you. Kelly, what are your thoughts? What are your experiences?
Yeah, I think my first thought is that we're not alone. Like a lot of times it seems like we're pushing that rock up the mountain and we're doing it all by ourselves. But I've learned through this committee, learning through our experiences and our conversations, it's giving me a global perspective, learning how agritourism is practiced around the world and how can that apply to local applications. I think that's really important, understanding what's happening around the world, not just in our backyard. The other thing is the shared challenges. Many of the challenges that we have, many of us have, with the regulations and that sort of thing. It confirmed that there are issues that are common around the world, and that's something that we can work on for sure. And the other thing is just the networking, like meeting these people from around the world has been really uplifting and enlightening, and just being able to reach out to other people just to do some brainstorming about things. And I find that helps me in my journey around agritourism. And it has been a long process, and people say, well, why is it taking you so long? But I think we needed to go through this process to get to where we are today. We're feeling comfortable with the definition, and it is applying globally. And I think that was the outcome that we wanted to reach. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
Even in the discussion stage, since it's by consensus, there is a lot of various opinions. I learned about you can disagree without being disagreeable, a very important trait. So that is what we disagreed on a lot of things, but we were never disagreeable. So that was another aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, such great points. And I will say personally, it's been an incredible process to be a part of. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to close now by, I'll turn it back to Carla, and we'll move on to the next slide. And Carla will talk a little bit about the current work and next steps.
You can see we have a vibrant group, very knowledgeable with strong expertise in agritourism, in agriculture, and in tourism. And you may be thinking, well, now that you have a definition, the work is done. And no, we are not done yet. We have completed 5 action items, but we are still working in classification of agritourism that can serve as a reference globally. And that responds to some of the comments and questions in the chat. And sorry, we cannot reach to more. Next, please, Erica. So if you really want to be part of this awesome group, are ready for great, vibrant conversations to agree to disagree. As Aditya Bardad said, I encourage you to be involved with our committee. To do so, you have to register first to GAN. You can see the code in the screen, as well as the website where is the link to. And then you select the Definitions and Standards Committee, and we automatically will be included. With that, I will pass it to Lisa to wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody, for your questions, everybody, to the panelists, to Erica, to Lisa, and thank you.
As often happens during our webinars, we have a lot more that we would like to discuss. And, you know, an hour is a short time to just begin to dive into a topic. So we want to tell you a little bit about some of our other upcoming events. Once a year, we gather in person in different parts of the world, and the Global Agritourism Conference will be happening in June in Aberdeen, Scotland, hosted by Scottish Agritourism in partnership with the Global Agritourism Network. And if you click on the QR code here, or also the link that Shauna put into chat, you will see information about the conference. It'll take you to our GAN website, but also about a whole bunch of upcoming webinars. We've got one that the Regenerative Agritourism Committee is putting on just a couple days from now, and then in December, we've got another one that's more geared towards farmers and ranchers, producers. And we're already well into planning for 2026. So while we love to get together in person whenever we can, in the meantime, we try to meet online for a variety of different webinars and also committee meetings, which don't necessarily get posted on the calendar, but you find out about when you become a member of GAN and register for a committee. Could I have the next slide, please? We do like to hear from you about how the webinars, how our conferences, how everything we're doing with the network is working for you, how it may be benefiting your work in agritourism, whether you're a farmer or a researcher or what have you. And also, what can we be doing better? What else should we be doing? How can we make GAN work better for you and for agritourism locally, nationally, and globally? So please take a minute to fill out this short survey. Let us know what you thought of this webinar specifically, and also there's a comment box where we'd love to hear what else we should be addressing. And let's see, Shauna will also drop that link into chat. So in closing, we know we just touched on a topic today, and there's so much more that we could be discussing. So our main goal here with the network is to keep the conversation going. Hopefully we'll see all of you in person in Scotland in June. And then in the meantime, we'll be meeting online periodically on a variety of different topics. So let's stay in touch, keep the conversation going. And thanks so much for joining us today.